Welcome to this training on how to set up Bionic Director before your show and what you need to do every time you have a new guest or presenter during your show. So I've opened up Bionic Studio. This might look a bit different at your radio station. That's totally fine. It works in exactly the same kind of way. The first thing to have a check of is that you are looking at the right bit of the system. So at the moment, the Bionic Director button is red, and that's telling us that Bionic Studio is looking at a different show from Bionic Director. And the reason that that has happened is that I have done a hot seat. So the previous show was on air, I've come in, I'm getting ready for my show, and the system is telling me that at the moment Bionic Director is going to be filming everything that's connected to the other show. So when it's time for my program to start, I just click Shows, make sure I've selected the program I'm actually working on, and now that logo is grey, so that's telling me that everything is looking in the right place. If you open up Bionic Studio and this logo is grey already, then that's absolutely perfect. Everything is lined up as it needs to be. So this little green dot shows that the system is connected and online, and at present it's not filming anything because all of my microphone faders are closed. When I'm setting up the studio, I just want to click onto here and I will see the cameras that are set up on my system. Now on my test system, I've got two different types of camera. One of them lets me adjust the camera remotely and the other one doesn't. So you might see different options at your station depending on the kind of cameras you have linked up to your Bionic Director system. So the first thing I can do is just click onto this little settings icon. This opens up the camera control because the camera that I have connected for my wide shot is one that I can control remotely. So hello everyone, that's the camera. Now in real life, you wouldn't really adjust the wide shot. The wide shot is your default shot that is set up that whenever the system doesn't know what to do, or if too many people are talking at once, or if they've just been one camera shot going on for too long and the system thinks that you need a change of view, it will change the wide shot. So you don't normally need to adjust the wide shot at all. But let's say that you had got a different camera and you did need to adjust it. On here you've got the options to adjust the view of the camera, so you can control it remotely by pressing these buttons here, and you can zoom in or out, and then once you're happy that the shot is okay, you can take a photograph of it to remind you that it's been set up correctly. So that is useful when you've got a guest camera. So leave the settings on the wide camera alone, but if you have a guest camera that you can adjust, it's really useful to go in and check the settings, because maybe you have a presenter who's 6 foot tall and you need to make the camera have a bit of headroom, and then the next person who comes in is sitting down and they're 5 foot tall, and you just need to adjust the shot a bit to make sure that they're still framed correctly. So once you're happy with that, take a photograph and then hit the tick button. You can completely ignore the caption name and the caption title boxes. They don't do anything at present, so just leave those blank. The other cameras that I've got connected on my test system, if I press that settings button, they don't have the option to remotely control the camera because they are a different model of camera and it doesn't allow the remote control. So, broadly speaking, if you have a camera that allows you to remote control it, when you get a new guest, go into the system and just check that the camera shot looks about right, and then take that little photo to remind yourself that you've done that. And then let's say you've got a new guest that comes in and sits down in the same position, you just go in, adjust the shot and take that little photograph to remind you that you've done it, and then you know the camera has been set up. So that's all you really need to do before the show starts and every time a guest comes and swaps over. If you have a camera that you can remotely control, Just check to make sure the shot looks okay, and if you haven't, you don't even need to worry about that. The other thing you want to check is that your system is in auto switch and auto record, and what that means is that I'll just do a demonstration. Every time I open a microphone, the system starts to record. So I'm now talking into a microphone on the system is recording, and if I shut the microphone fader, the system will stop recording. If I had more than one person in the studio, the system would also automatically switch the cameras. So that's what auto switch and auto record do. There are some times when you might want to turn those off. So I'll give you two examples. You might want to turn off auto switch and manually control the cameras, and you can do that by pressing onto the camera, and that will change what is being recorded. The time that you might want to do that is if you have got a guest in the studio and maybe you're about to reveal that they've won £1 million, or maybe you've got a politician and you're about to ask them a question about why they stole all that money and you found something out. And at that point, you don't want the system to be looking at the presenter who's speaking the words. You want to have the reaction shot. So you can very quickly take the system out of auto switch, and at the time that the person says, "Oh, congratulations, you're going to win £1 million," you can flip the system over to whichever camera is connected to that person's microphone, see them going, "Oh, that's amazing," and then you can put the system back into auto switch and it will carry on recording. So that's one time that you might briefly want to come out of auto switch and direct the cameras yourself. The time that you might want to come out of auto record, I'll just turn this off. When auto record is selected, when you put the microphone faders down, the system stops recording. But sometimes you want to have record mode on, and this records even when the faders are closed. You don't normally want that because when the faders are closed, it's usually because we've gone to a song or something, and that's not something that we want to be recording and sharing on social media. But let's say you have a sequence in your program where you have got a guest and you're going to play them in some clips from your playout system. So maybe it's some highlights from a news story you're talking about, and you've got a reporter in who's talking through the news of the day, and that's something you think you might want to share on social media later. You can put the system into record mode, and it will record when your microphones are open and you're talking to your guest. And then when you put the microphone faders down because you're playing in a clip, it will still record the action in the studio. And then when you go back to talking, it will carry on recording as one continuous clip. Again, once you've finished that segment, you want to make sure that you turn off the manual record of everything mode and go back into auto record, because otherwise you're going to end up with a really long recording and it's just going to be full of presenters picking their nose in songs during items or whatever, and nobody really wants to see that, and it will take up lots of storage space on your system. So much better for most of the time to leave it in auto switch and auto record, and then just come into here when you need to adjust it. So to just show you that again, at the moment the system is saying it's recording, so you'd normally be in your Bionic Studio module looking at your social media, answering your phones, doing whatever you're doing. If you need to adjust something, you come into Director, and you can then, if you need to, briefly come out of auto switch to manually control cameras and then put it back into auto switch, or you can go into manual record mode, and when you want to come out of manual record mode, you turn that off, and then you can go back into auto record, and that means the system is back in its default option that whenever a microphone is open, it's automatically recording and switching cameras, and when all the microphones are shut, it stops that recording. So really, I hope that shows that Bionic Director is very simple. When you're in the middle of a program, you don't need to worry about it too much. The only times you need to think about it are when you first start your show to make sure that you are looking at the right system. If this is grey, you're good to go. And if you think you want to have a reaction shot, you might need to pop in and take manual control of the switching for a moment. And if you want to record the action even when the faders are shut, then you might want to go in and put it into manual record just for a little bit. But the rest of the time, so long as your camera is set up and you're happy with the shot and you're in auto switch and auto record, and this little green dot is there, or there's a red flashing dot when it's recording, the system is working and you can relax and just enjoy having a wonderful program. I hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing you in another training video.